Hey, I'm Sadler Vaden, guitarist for Jason Isbell in the 400 unit. I'm also an artist, producer, and songwriter. And today we're at Boulevard Recording Studio in Los Angeles, and we're looking at the hand-wired amps from VOX. The VOX sound, to me, you know it right away when you hear it. It reminds me of the classic artists such as the Beatles and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and The Edge from U2. And it just has this amazing, cleanish chime, but when you need it to break up, it can really cut through and sit in the mix right. Today I've got a Fender Custom Shop Tele, and I'm plugged into the high input side of the normal channel. I've got the volume at about 2 o'clock, and I've got the bright switch up, and let's see how it sounds. I like the normal side of the VOX with the Tele because I feel like when I dig in, it really reacts to that. And then when I pick, and do arpeggiated stuff, it cleans up really nicely. Now I'll turn it off and we can see what it sounds like. It was nice, it felt like it had a lot more low end when I turned the bright switch off, and just tamed the highs a little bit. So let's see how the normal side takes pedals. I'll turn on a little delay first. Sounds really good. A little gain. That was with the bright switch off. I'll turn the bright switch up and we can see how it sounds with pedals. Little gain. I think when you're testing pedals with an amp, I like to hear that sounds like the amp itself rather than the pedal, the speaker is acting up and sort of, sounding blown out on the low end and things like that. I like the tonal characteristics to stay the same as you add the pedals in. I really like the way this MXR Timmy sounds with it. I'm going to play a little more with that. That's a big rock sound. I like that. So let's switch guitars and see the difference between the normal side and the top boost side. I'm gonna grab a Les Paul now. So now I've got a beautiful 59 Murphy Lab Gibson Les Paul, and I'm plugged into the high input side of the normal channel with the bright switch up. So let's hear how that sounds. Now we'll plug into the top boost side. So usually when I have this guitar on this side of this amp, I'm gonna play like big fat power chords for rhythm. So let's do something like that. So the EQ and the VOX amps are actually really reactive with each other. So let's start with the bass and treble on the top boost side at 12 o'clock and hear what that sounds like. Now let's take the bass all the way out. I found that to be a nice tone. It had the low end was scooped a little more and smooth mid-range. I think you would sit in a mix very well with that tone. Now let's turn the treble all the way up with the bass at midnight and see what that sounds like. So that tone would be a really nice layer if you were doing some solos on a song. I think you go back over and add a tone like that and that would sound really killer. I mean, I'm doing the extreme with bass and treble, and to my ears, nothing is sounding super ice picky or offensive. And you can play a small club or a big room with it. It's got the master volume, so you can get the volume just right. But if you want to push the tubes a little more, you can actually turn the channel volume all the way up and it bypasses the master volume. So then you can just use your channel volume and get the tone you're looking for. So let's try that out. Definitely with the master volume turned all the way up and you can work the channel gain. I noticed a lot more sustain. If you're playing more dynamically, your pick attack, that's going to come through a little more. Found the mid-range to be really sweet too. This amp also comes with a really nice sounding spring reverb, so let's check that out. Send the reverb all the way up. So I really like the sound of the spring reverb in this amp. It seems like it sits, back a little bit, doesn't take over your sound. So if you turn it all the way up, you still get a nice clean guitar sound coming through. So the reverb doesn't take over. So we've got a VOX Hand-Wired AC30. You know what you have to do? You have to get a Rickenbacker 12 string. So let's plug that in. So for me, when I think VOX amps, I kind of immediately think of a Rickenbacker 12 string. It's just the iconic pair. So I've got one here. And we're gonna put a little compression on it. Let's see what it sounds like. Wow, that's just like the sound I'm looking for right there. Let's hear some chords with the compression on. Now let's hear it with the compression off. Yeah, so with the compression off, I almost got this little bit of modulation chorus sound that comes inherent with a 12-string guitar, but I think with the compression off, it allowed those harmonics to break through a little more. So since we have the RIC 12, let's hear what the master volume sounds like bypassed. What I've really noticed about the hand-wired amps is that the top end is really nice and smooth. VOX is kind of known to really cut, and I think that's why you have tone cut. And I haven't had to really use that too much on this amp. It's nice to blend in, but I think the top end is really smooth on these. So I actually have a bit of history with VOX. I've played them for about 10 years. The first VOX I ever owned was a hand-wired AC30. Then I found an amp called a VOX Pacemaker they made in the mid-60s, and I have about 3 of those that are all tube. Those sound amazing. And I've also played the custom series with the head and cab, and every amp I've owned from them sounds great. I find this one to be one of the best VOX amps I've ever played. And I think they've really done a good job aesthetically. I love the brass vents on top. I love the Alnico Blue speakers. Celestion greenbacks are great, but for me and my style, the Alnico Blues are a good fit. I've played through a 63 VOX before, and I find this to be like an amazing recreation of that with some modern features. And yeah, vintage VOXes are really great, but you know, when you're hitting the road, you need something really reliable. And I think this is a fantastic sounding amp. It looks great. You could get a lot of use out of this in the studio and on stage. If you want to learn more about the VOX hand-wired lineup, head to guitarcenter.com, contact one of their expert gear advisors, or stop in at your local GC.